really was to
that I felt like I needed, and I was comfortable in that space of just me and God.
Hope is offensive. Hope is desperate.
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Jumpstart Your Vision with Coach Karen Hilton. I am Coach Karen Hilton. I'm trying to get all the things right in the right place. Come on in here. It's Monday morning, and you know what that means. That means it is a clean slate, a fresh start, and I am so excited about our topic today. This is a community discussion. You know, I love these Mondays. Amanda Bowen and I, who is part of our digital marketing and social media team, y'all say good morning to Amanda. She's absolutely fabulous. Hey, Amanda. Welcome this morning, girl. It's good to see you in here. We got a lot to talk about. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be spicy, okay? But this is just the conversation we need to be having because we all need it. I don't know about you. We started these during the pandemic. If you are new and joining us for the first time, first of all, let us know that you're here. But we started this during the pandemic and it took off like wildfire. Why? Because we all needed it. Like I needed it. Y'all needed it. Apparently everybody needed it. So I'm just so excited that this has been a blessing. And I want you to know that we put a lot of effort and work and focus and study and research into bringing you topics that matter, that help you make a difference and make an impact, and ultimately jumpstart your week, which is where this came from. Okay. So get your coffee, do your thing, get your stuff together, block your calendar, get your notebook because you're going to want to write on this one. I've got some goodness for you. But first, let's just say good morning and hey to everybody who's joining us live. Thank you so much. If you're watching us on YouTube, good morning, YouTube family. We are so good to see you. This is Jumpstart Your Vision with Coach Karen Hilton. And this is an incredible place that we come every single week during the season when the season is live to bring you focus, purpose, and perspective. Those are the pillars of our community. And our goal is to help you rock your vision, to help you do life and work on your own terms. So whether you are a CEO of a $1 billion company or you're running your own household, there's something here for you to learn. One of the unique things about our community is that we have a combination of workplace leaders, entrepreneurs, and the mission-minded. And I want you to know something. In the past decade, almost decade, we have done some incredible things together, things that I never thought were even possible. We're going to talk about all of that. But first, okay, let's see who's in here. John Kovaleski. Y'all give it up for Coach John. He makes the magic happen behind the scenes. And he's actually in West Virginia. Oh, the wonders of technology, right? He is an incredibly important part of our community. He's also my twin. Y'all did not have a twin. One of these days we'll bring him on. But in the meantime, hey TT, she's my baby girl. She's my heart. I love this woman so much. She is a young woman after my own heart and after God's own heart. She is a teacher, an incredible teacher, and she's an entrepreneur. Y'all, I can't wait to share with you a little bit about what she's doing, but she's joining us this morning. So good to see you, TT. I love you. And OG, Christy Kent is in the house. Let's go, Christy. Christy is one of my best and dearest friends. She is also a very important part of the Rock Your Vision community, and I'm waiting for you to get to know her a little bit. Who else is in here? Of course, Amanda is joining us. And somewhere I saw that, Heather Cleverly is here. Heather is our director of digital marketing and social media. She is absolutely fabulous. And y'all need to call her, but you can't have her, okay? Because she's everything. Anyway, let's see. Jessica! Girl, I am so sorry I didn't get a chance to chat with you yesterday. Jessica Banner is in here. Jessica is also one of my tribe. We are fellow church members together. She is also a part of Vision Casters Academy. If y'all haven't joined Vision Casters Academy, we're going to leave it open for about another 30 days, and then we rolling. Vision Casters Academy is our monthly membership. I hope you will find out what all the fuss is about. Carolyn Clark, good morning. It's good to see you in here, lady. I hope you had a good weekend. Well, you know how we do it. I would love it if you would share this with your network. Just hit that share button at the bottom. If you are on YouTube, you can do the same thing. Make sure you click the bell notification so that you get notifications when we go live. We've got some incredible things coming up, and I'm really excited to share those with you. But more importantly, we want to get vision trending, right? We want to be able to equip leaders, vision-driven leaders, to be able to get out of the weeds, get out of the hustle, and give them practical strategies to be able to move forward, to be able to make a difference right where they are, which brings us to our topic today. Now, y'all know I don't do anything by accident. This topic has been hot right now. I don't know if you have been watching the news, but I think it was last week we got a notification from our bank and notification subsequently thereafter from lots of people and organizations about a very large bank. And the feds had to step in. And when I tell you, like, the interwebs and the news feeds went absolutely crazy. Now, this hits really close to home, not just because it affects the bank where I bank, it also affects my clients. I have clients in Silicon Valley. I have clients in the crypto space. Yeah, I'm going to let y'all sit on that for a minute. That is not a small thing. So you can imagine, never mind all the things that have happened in the past few years and even coming into 2023, but can you imagine being in a volatile industry like crypto? Or maybe you're in crypto. Maybe you have friends or family in that industry that has just taken an absolute beating. If you remember, crypto used to be like it used to be super like complex and interesting, and people were thinking this was the next thing. But there were still a lot of people who were like, I don't want anything to do with that. But I need to remind you of something. Every industry that has brought disruption and innovation started off kind of the black sheep of the family, right? Every industry. Look at any industry, photography, automotive, medicine. Every industry started off weird. Now, this is not a pitch for crypto because your girl is not in crypto, okay? But outside of serving that industry. What I'm saying to you is there is something important for us to catch. So if you're feeling right now a little kind of weak in the knees, seeing all of this pop up in the news, maybe you've been impacted. I hope today's episode will give you some practical insight and some encouragement and inspiration that, yes, friend, you can lead when the bottom falls out. You can lead when the bottom falls out. I know it's exhausting. I know it's tiring, but I promise you can lead. You were born for this. And I say it all the time. There's never been a better time to lead. I believe that. I believe that. Even when it's been hard, don't get it twisted. This is not about Karen has unicorns and rainbows going on over here. Because y'all know, and especially for those of you that know me well, you know that is not true. I've had more than my share of disruption and delay and denial and discouragement, all of those things. And I know you have too. But today, we're going to walk this thing out together. We're going to get our week jump started well, because we got work to do. I believe that God's given you a purpose. And you know, I say it, if you got a purpose, if you got a pulse, you got a purpose. Say it with me. I want you to put it in the chat if you can. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. And then go tell 75 of your friends. Just remind them, if you have a pulse, you got a purpose. You have a purpose. And I'm going to give you, I'm not just going to talk about it. Like, I don't want it to just be kind of this coachy kind of thing to say. I'm going to share with you a few people who have led during disruption. They got in the weeds. They didn't run. They kept going. You know those people too. Let's see who else is in here. Hey, Coach Kim Dudash. Kim Dudash from Dudash Executive Coaching is in the house. If you're not following her, go follow her at Dudash Executive Coaching and Dudash Farms. Y'all, a little slice of heaven in Dandridge, Tennessee. One of my favorite places to be ever. Okay, just so you know. All right. Let's see. Yes, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. We're going to share that goodness. We got to remind everybody. But, you know, in this community, we have people who are in the corporate space. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're in the workplace. Maybe you work for a company. You know, maybe you're running a team or a division, or maybe you're just keeping an executive from losing their mind. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you work in the retail space or the fashion industry. Y'all, we have quite a few people in here who are in the fashion industry. I just think that is the coolest thing. Maybe you're in ministry. We have quite a few ministry leaders in here. Okay, so what industry are you in? If you're watching us live, pop in the chat. What industry would you say you're in? Maybe you're in multiple industries. I was in multiple industries for a while. Maybe you're in multiple industries. Let us know in the chat, what space are you in? What industry are you in? Are you a pastor or a minister or a ministry leader? Maybe you are a receptionist. Maybe you're in banking. I don't know. Let's find out who's in the community. If you're joining us on YouTube, y'all get in the chat and be sure to let StreamYard know that you are here and give them permission so we can know who you are. We'd love to shout you out and get involved in the conversation. Okay, Amanda, yep, she's in marketing and content creation. What else? What other industries do we have up in here? I'm super interested to know who we have in here right now. So let's talk a little bit for a second about disruption. Have any of you, by show of hands, emoji, fist bump, something, have any of you in the past, let's say 5 years, experienced major disruption? Anybody? Just put it in the chat, like whoop, whoop. Anybody experienced major disruption in your work or your life? I'm just checking because I may just be here all by myself, but I need to know, have you experienced major disruption in the past 5 years? Just put it in the chat. There's always a method to my madness, y'all. Okay, we need to have this conversation, and I just want to know, has anybody experienced major disruption in the past 5 years? If you have not experienced major disruption, we need to talk. We need to talk. Yeah, all of us have experienced major disruption in some way. Now, we all experienced major disruption coming through 2020, but we've experienced major disruption long before the pandemic ever came along. Okay? Long before the pandemic came along. The pandemic was new for our generation, right? So we can spend a whole show talking about why we experienced the intensity of what we experienced coming through the pandemic. But we're not going to spend any time on that because there are lots of people who have spent time on it. But the reality is every single one of us has experienced major disruption. Major disruption. Okay? I don't know about you, but when I got to the pandemic, I completely forgot about everything that happened before. Why? Am I the only one? Like I got this brand new monster in front of me called the pandemic. It affected my business. It affected my children. It affected my husband. It affected everything. And I literally got to the pandemic and I stock my shelves now. Y'all don't know about me. I am a pantry stocker. I am that person. Please don't tell anybody and don't show up at my house, okay? But I am that person. So I had a little bit of toilet paper when the pandemic started. I can laugh about it now, but I promise I wasn't laughing then. But I'm just saying I was a little bit ready. I am not a doomsday prepper. I'm not a doomsday prepper. Anyway, when I got to the pandemic, something happened to me. And I'm curious for those of you that maybe had major things going on. Like, what happened to you when you got to the pandemic? Did it feel absolute? Did you forget about everything that happened before? One of the power plays for those of us that are vision-driven leaders is that when you experience disruption, go back to what you overcame before. Go back to what you overcame before. It's one of the first power plays to remember. We're going to talk about a few more, but I'm telling you, there's something important to remember when disruption happens. Now, let's take what's happening right now in the news. It feels like we came out of the pandemic and we didn't have a chance to kind of catch our breath. But the reality is there were important lessons that we needed to be bringing into what was happening to us in the moment. We all have to ground ourselves when disruption lands, right? When it happens, like it feels like the earth is shaking underneath you, and it is. I know plenty of people. I have clients in the industries where the Silicon Valley Bank, they were operating with the Silicon Valley Bank. And I'm telling you, there's some calls I've got to be on after this call, after this show, that are going to be disruptive. So when we face disruption, when that bottom falls out, one of the very first things we have to do is be honest about what's happening. Pretending like, the bottom just fell out, didn't just happen, is not the answer. In fact, I'm going to post this. I will post this after the show. But a 2020 Harvard Business Review article kind of laid out some of the most important things to do for leaders when the bottom falls out. Crisis is guaranteed to happen when you're a leader. Okay, so for those of you in the corporate space, Carolyn, Coach Kim Dudash, for all of you who are working in corporate, maybe you are embedded in corporate or maybe you're serving corporate, what are some of the strategies that you have seen work in the midst of major disruption? Pop it in the chat. What are some of the strategies that you have seen work when the bottom falls out? Kind of getting to that place where your emotions hijack your senses is a surefire way to stay stuck. And it happens to all of us. It happens to me, but we can't stay there. All right. I want to introduce you to a few people who have experienced major disruption in their life. Major disruption. I mean, they did not have it easy, although when we see them today, it looks like they've got it all happening. Okay? Major disruption. People who have overcome insurmountable odds. They were the unlikely and the unqualified. These are the people who had something going on in their lives. And I'm just going to give you one or two things about these people who succeeded even when they didn't have what we think people need to succeed. All right. If you know somebody who overcame something incredible in the midst of insurmountable odds, pop their name in the chat. Maybe you know them well, or maybe you know about them. Okay. You ready? Anybody know Steven Spielberg? Steven Spielberg. Anybody know him? Movie producer. He dropped out of college. Now, there's a lot more to Steven Spielberg's story, but when you see this billionaire today, you would never think, oh, this guy went through something difficult, right? He moved through an industry that at the time required you to have all the things, all the connections. Not so much. Let's see who else. Quincy Jones. Anybody know Quincy Jones? If you're a music fan, you know Quincy Jones. Zach, do you know Quincy Jones? Being in the music industry, I know you are. Zach Knudsen is in here. Okay, Zach. Next 2 weeks, let's get it done. Let's get on the phone. Zach Knudsen is in the music industry. He knows who Quincy Jones is. Also, college dropout. Now, I'm talking about kind of stuff that feels like it's on the surface. Like, Karen, that's not a big deal. Who do you know who has experienced major disruption and push through who did it anyway. I know some of you have experienced major disruption and you did it anyway. You showed up anyway, you pushed through. So how do you keep going when you experience major disruption, when the bottom falls out? I'm going to give you some practical strategies to keep disruption, to keep delay or denial from overwhelming you. Carolyn says one of the main strategies that she's seen in the corporate space is over communication. Over communication. We're going to talk about how to take that strategy and apply it on an individual basis. She says, stay calm. I was listening to one of my favorite leaders in the entire world. His name is Jocko Willink. You get extra points today if you know who Jocko is. Anybody know who Jocko is? Anybody? If you know who Jocko is, I am going to be super impressed. Just drop it in the chat if you know who Jocko Willink is. If you're watching on YouTube, just let me know. Do you know who Jocko is? This man is an absolute beast. He is a former... Kim knows who Jocko is. Of course you do, Kim. This is why we're friends. Anyway, I love Jocko. Jocko is a former Navy SEAL. He is absolutely just a rock star. He is, he's founder of Extreme Ownership. And don't tell anybody, but I'm trying to get my husband to one of his sessions. Anyway, he talks about this idea of staying calm, Carolyn, as one of the key leadership principles when shock and awe happen, when you get bombarded, when things feel like they're coming from the left and the right. Staying calm is one of the things you have to do, right? And especially if you're leading others. So let's talk about how you lead when the bottom falls out. One of the very first things to do, we talked about it a second ago, is to be honest about what's happening. The worst thing you can do, Carolyn will tell you this, the worst thing you can do is to pretend like nothing's happening, right? It's one of the worst things you can do. So write this down. One of the very first things to do is to be honest about what you're experiencing. Pretending actually puts you at risk. Did you know that? One of the things we talk about in this community is something I call the wilderness experience. We did a whole course around this during the pandemic. And for those of you that are in Vision Casters Academy, we are going to be focusing on learning the stages of the wilderness experience in Vision Casters Academy. So if you are not a part of Vision Casters Academy, I want you to consider joining us. This is our monthly membership where we go deep. We do workshops. We have special guests. We're doing some pretty incredible things. We have tools and resources to help you begin building a toolkit to be able to rock your vision all year long. But understanding the stages of the wilderness experience helps you kind of anchor yourself and gives you the strategies and the insight you need to be able to do what I just talked about, being able to be honest about what you're experiencing without collapsing and falling apart. How many of you know that if you are parents, maybe you are a grandparent or you're an auntie or an uncle, you've got responsibility for kiddos. If something happens, if an emergency happens, those kids are looking to you to know what's next. If you fall apart, what happens? What happens? Everybody loses, right? When you are a leader, when you are responsible for making a difference, making an impact, getting things done, especially getting things done through other people, the very first thing to do is to be honest about what you're experiencing. But being honest about what you're experiencing doesn't mean you fall apart or you get stuck there, right? Now, as believers, y'all know I'm a Jesus girl. One of the first things to do after you're honest about what you're experiencing is to pull God into the equation. Even if you feel like, and especially if you feel like you don't know what's going on, bring God into the equation. In the moment, bring God into the equation. Now, we're not going to get into a conversation because I know that there are plenty of people who say, well, God did this and God did that. And why did he do this? And why did he do that? Let me just tell you, when the bottom falls out, if you spend time being angry, being bitter, you will create a blind spot. Let me just tell you, that anger, that frustration it will backfire. How many of you know that when you are in crisis, you will experience blind spots if you get stuck in your emotions? There is a time to process what's going on, right? All of us as vision-driven leaders, particularly those of us who are leading other people. Deandra Grant, who's a teacher, she is leading children. If something happened in her environment, in that educational environment, getting stuck in her feelings doesn't help her, does it? We have to be able to do more than just, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of a crisis, and then collapse. So being honest about what we're feeling gives us a place to start, okay? It's the very first thing. It gives us a place to start. Second, bring God into the equation. Get your perspective. Anchor yourself. Anchor yourself in that moment. When we talk about the wilderness experience, one of the first things we talk about, and Jocko Willink, or for those of you that follow him, Bear Grylls, one of my favorite paratroopers ever. If y'all don't know who Bear Grylls is, I need you to go look him up. He's absolutely incredible. And he goes into places that nobody would go voluntarily. He goes for us and then teaches us how to get through the wilderness. But one of the things that I learned from him over the pandemic was that people who survive wilderness experiences, they're honest about what they're feeling, they ground themselves, and then they start making decisions about how they're going to move forward. Okay? So, first, be honest about what you're feeling. Second, bring God into the equation. Get your perspective. Make some decisions about what you're going to do and how you're going to approach it. You say, well, Karen, I'm all up in my emotions. You don't understand what just happened. My mom just got sick, been there. My mom just got this diagnosis that I don't understand. I don't know what to do. I just lost my job. You know, I just got a notice from the bank, all of those things, and I get it. But friend, if you are going to lead, meaning lead yourself, lead other people, lead an organization, when the bottom falls out, losing it, like allowing yourself to collapse, is not the answer. Because here's what we believe around here. I say this all the time. If you've got a pulse, you've got a purpose. That means even if everything falls apart, even if the bottom falls out altogether, if you are still like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you still got this going on. That means that there is something else for you to do. This is the way we roll. If you look at people who overcame incredible things, how many of you have ever heard of the CNN Heroes Award? Anybody ever heard of that? Have y'all heard of like these people are real life heroes. They are doing incredible things. If you go to cnn.com/specials/CNN Heroes, you can read about some of the most incredible people ever known to mankind who did the impossible. They have done things in their communities, in their lives, when they should have given up. These are people who understand this concept that when the bottom falls out, when you experience catastrophic illness, when you experience some sort of natural disaster or financial ruin, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. That means there's something that God intends for you to do in this moment. Can I just say this to you? And I know it can feel really esoteric, but what I'm saying to you is, listen, rocking your vision is not always about kind of success in the terms that we look at it from the world's perspective. You know, having a full bank account, right? Having the best network and getting invited to all of the fancy events. That is not always rocking your vision. And I know it looks like, you know, here we've got all the things together. Somebody said, oh my gosh, it just looks like you're just having the time of your life. I am having the time of my life, and real life happens. If you talk to anybody who has made it, they will tell you that real stuff is still going on. Let's get in here into the comments. I want to see what y'all are talking about. Carolyn says, staying calm can be hard to do, and that's where emotional intelligence is needed. It's called EQ. Yes, it's called EQ. That's right. And emotional intelligence is not just about how we relate to other people. Emotional intelligence is also about how we relate to ourselves, right? That's right, Amanda. when you don't have those anchors and you have other people coming behind you or looking up to you for direction when the bottom falls out, they will fall apart if you fall apart. Kim says, Coach Kim says, you also have to remember you're not an island. 3 snaps to that. We were never designed to be alone. We were never designed to lead alone. Come in here a minute. If you're a leader, listen to me really carefully. If Coach Kim was on here right now, she would say this to you. She would say, as a leader, you were never designed to lead alone. Leading means you take on responsibility for pulling others along with you. But the reality is you were never designed to lead alone. How many of you who are leading, you're leading a business, you're leading a team, you're leading a family, how many of you are trying to do it by yourself? You're trying to do it on your own? Or here we go. Maybe you're a leader of something and you tried to bring somebody along with you and you got burned. I'll wait. Maybe you got burned. Maybe you had a partner in business or in work. Maybe you had a colleague who put you under the bus. Maybe you went into business together and they took your cash. Maybe you got married and it didn't work out. They played a trick on you. And this is where we get to meddling. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe you had a family member who left you on your own when you needed them the most. I'm going to walk away from that. I don't know what it is for you, but you were never meant to lead alone. And the enemy of your soul will convince you to go out and do it on your own. And did you know that isolation is necessary to help you hone your skills as a leader? But everything can turn into a bad thing if you go too long. You can quote me, right? Isolation is good until it's not. You were never designed to lead on your own. If you are leading on your own, friend, I'm just telling you, that is not leadership. If you have a business, and how many of us say it? We go into business, I'm going to work for myself. You were never designed to lead alone for many reasons. But let's focus on the reason we're talking about today. If you are leading alone, when the bottom falls out, somebody finish the sentence for me, please. If you're leading alone, when the bottom falls out, Carolyn, Coach Kim, come on in here. Tawana Miner is joining us. Hey, girl, come on in here. Somebody talk to me. When you're leading alone, what happens when the bottom falls out? Yeah, Carolyn, you're alone. It's all on you. In the past 3.5 years, as I've worked with leaders, as Coach Kim has worked with leaders, as Carolyn and Tawana and Shireen Douglas, who's joining us. Hey, Shireen. As we work with leaders, as you work with leaders and have over the past 3.5 years, how many times have you seen this where leaders get in their head, the bottom has fallen out, they're trying to fix all the things on their own. And you remember what I said before, when you try to lead alone, what happens? You create blind spots. Yeah, you create blind spots. Or Coach Kim says, when the bottom falls out, you're devastated. Listen to me very carefully. Just because you're a leader does not mean you don't need covering. It doesn't mean that you don't need relief or rest. Hear me very carefully. Do not get it twisted. Do not get it twisted. Please don't miss this. It doesn't mean that you don't need covering. It means that when you're devastated, you're left there on your own for lots of reasons. Sometimes we've seen this happen in our practice. Leaders are so singularly focused that they've left everybody that they were supposed to be leading behind. And either nobody wants to go or nobody knew you were leaving. How many of you have seen this? Carolyn says, yep, she's seen this. She sees this all the time. Sometimes she says, when the bottom falls out, you become delusional as a leader. Yeah. You begin to believe your own stuff. You miss things, right? That blind spot. Y'all, this is good. Okay, let's keep it going. So first, be honest about what you're experiencing. Second, bring God into the equation. Okay. Third, I want you to anchor yourself in a perspective. For me, my perspective is scripture. I'm going to give you a few of my favorites when you need to build your resilience. Excuse me just a minute while I go through my notes, but I don't want you to miss this. So for those of you that know what I'm talking about, what's the perspective or the scripture or the meditation or that thing that anchors your mind? When you are in the wilderness, like the literal wilderness, most often people don't have, like Bibles and inspirational magazines and things like that. Most of the time people don't have that. So we talk about this idea of memorizing and meditating, getting the word in your heart, right? Scripture talks about get the word in thy heart. Listen to this. Joshua 1:9 says, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Getting that in your heart and in your soul. So when the bottom falls out, guess what happens in crisis? We draw on the very first thing. That is a physiological response. It's a psychological response. We draw from the thing that is there, the very first. I can get it out, right? What are you praying and meditating on? What do you have in your soul and in your spirit, right? If you're feeling winded, friend, if you're feeling discouraged, I want to remind you to put that discouragement on hold for just a minute. Bear Grylls talks about this. Jocko talks about this. You have to ground yourself in what's happening. You have to be honest about what's happening. Bring God into the picture, even if you don't feel like it in the moment. But let me tell you something. You have to make some practical decisions. Pastor Andy Smith talks about this all the time. You have to bring your natural with God's super. That's what makes supernatural. God's working in the heavens, but guess what? There's something that we have to do practically. There are things we need to do practically to ground ourselves. Is that right? Yeah, that's absolutely right. Okay, here's another one. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7 says, for God gave you not a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of self-control. In some versions, it says God gives you a spirit of power, love, and sound mind. Okay. Kim says one of her favorites is Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what the will of God is. Okay. This is like power player stuff. Like you think, oh, it's just about working harder. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work harder. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that happens when the bottom falls out. You go to the very first thing that you are accustomed to doing. If you are accustomed to falling apart, you will fall apart. If you are accustomed to cursing God, you will curse God. If you are accustomed to self-isolating and just shutting down, you will shut down. Why am I saying this? This isn't a lecture, guys. I am encouraging us in this season when the news comes across and it's like, oh my goodness, here we go again. There are strategies, things that we can do to lead ourselves and to lead our teams, to lead our ministries, to lead our organizations from a place of vision. Vision is about knowing what's ahead of you and knowing that it's better than where you are right now. It's about believing that there is something that's ahead of us. It's about believing that, yeah, God called us to do something more. And I promise you, where God calls you, he will equip you. But as he's bringing his super, there's some natural things that we all have to do. Can I get an amen? That's good, y'all. Okay, that's good. Anyway, what's next? Okay, when we have shock and awe, when the bottom falls out, one of the first things that can happen is that our teams lean on us so heavy, or people lean on us so heavy, our family, our children. So the tendency is to try to pay attention to everything. Listen to me for a minute. Come in here. If you are doing something else, just turn and look at me for a minute. Or if you're listening to me, just listen for a minute. When the bottom falls out, it is really important to get focused, because the reality is you will not be able to do everything. You cannot do everything. When the bottom falls out, I need you to get focused. When my mother became ill, catastrophically ill, in 2013, I was running HR in 4 countries. I was raising 3 kids that were, school age kids. I was leading in church. I was doing everything. And y'all, when mom got sick, and it was just me. It was just me. I mean, I had a few extended family that were coming along to encourage me, but ultimately it was up to me. And you know what? I started trying to do all the things. I'm going to do this. 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 And I thought I could put all of the things in one basket to get done what needed to be done in caring for my mother. But y'all, I had to get focused. So one of the next things to do when the bottom falls out is understand what to say yes to and what to say no to. Come on. You have to understand what to say yes to and what to say no to. Take a step back. If you are so close that you have a bird's eye view of what's going on, but you don't take a step back to be able to get an eagle's eye view of what's going on, you're going to get eaten. Sorry. Did y'all hear what I say? What I said, if you are so close that you have a bird's eye view and you don't step back to get an eagle's eye view of what's happening in your environment, somebody's going to come for you. Something is going to blindside you. Okay, that's the next thing. Okay. Give yourself, you say, Karen, I've got so much coming at me. I don't even know how to say no. I'm going to give you a tip here. Give yourself at least 24 hours before you say yes to anything else. If you are overwhelmed, if you are struggling, if you are trying to get your bearings in the midst of everything that's going on, just know it's okay to say no or not now. That's a full sentence. Give yourself 24 hours. If you have to get back to somebody, give yourself 24 hours. And let me just give you a few other things. Give yourself permission to unfollow, not attend, or not reply. Some of y'all are going to be mad at me for that. It's okay to not attend, to unfollow, or not reply. As a vision-driven leader, when you begin to grow your influence, when you begin to get more and more and more to do, you will not be able to do everything. You cannot serve everybody. Okay? I'm just telling you, one of the topics that's coming up in April, y'all, I can't wait to talk about this topic, is scaling your leadership. Okay. How do you scale? We're going to talk about it. I hope you won't miss it. You need to tell somebody and invite 75 of your friends, because we all need to talk about this. Amanda Bowen, mic drop, boundaries. Put up some boundaries. When you are under shock and awe, you cannot have everybody coming in every door. You cannot be on every channel on social media. You cannot. I mean, Amanda and Heather and I mean, we are constantly kind of scanning for what's happening in our community on social media. But we all made decisions when we started working together. There are some channels we're just not going to go to, because we want to make sure that we're serving our community well where we are. And you guys know this, when you go through challenge, extreme challenge, when you're trying to bring somebody else along, trying to answer everybody is not the answer. Don't be mad. Here's another tip. When fire drills come up, when crisis happens, address them with clarity, confidence, and those guardrails. Carolyn already gave us the strategy, right? clear communication and over communication. Set your boundaries and be clear on what you need as a leader. How about that? Because our tendency as leaders is to do what? I'm going to serve everybody. I'm going to answer this person. I'm going to do that. Da, 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 da. Maybe one strategy for you is to delegate, right? You don't increase the size of your team. You actually decrease the size of your team so that you know who's doing what, who's in charge, and you empower them. Come on. I mean, if Jesus did it, it's good enough for us, right? Jesus empowered his disciples, and then he what? Sent them out. This is good. Y'all gonna get this in a minute. Anyway, here's one. Y'all write this down. I need you to release responsibility for what other people think. When you are a vision-driven leader and the bottom falls out, you are going to have 75 of your closest friends, the people that you think support you the most, who are going to have an opinion about what you did. Everybody's going to have an opinion. Everybody's going to suddenly figure out what it is you've been dealing with and how it is you're supposed to be leading. I need you to get clear and release what everybody thinks. When you are going through personal challenge and suddenly you're not going to be able to be at every event, or you're going to have to step off of that committee. Everybody's going to have an opinion. I'm just saying, you need to let that go. You need to let that go, because what God's calling you to do is to get focused. If you're going to lead when the bottom falls out and you're going to lead well, you're going to get to the other side of whatever that is. And friend, can I just say this to somebody? I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you are watching this and you are struggling, you feel like, you know what, you're out there on your own, nobody understands, or nobody sees you. I want you to remember something. God equipped them and God equips you. And he is not going to leave you in a season where you are all by yourself. Isolation is good until it's not. Remember that. I want you to do something. Here's the next thing. I want you to do something called giving yourself margin. It's related to boundaries. It's related to understanding when to say no or not now. But giving yourself margin means that you have room to breathe. Now, sometimes when you're going through extreme circumstances, you don't have room to breathe. But I'm going to tell you something. Shock and awe, when the bottom falls out, crisis, delay, denial can sound like an overwhelming explosion in your head and in your heart. So what do? We tend to do this. But friend, give yourself margin. Take a step back and take a breath. You can lead when the bottom falls out. You were born for this. For those of us that have a vision, if you've got a vision for something bigger or something better, and maybe that bigger or better is not about doing more. Maybe that bigger or better is about retiring. Maybe that bigger or better is about resigning from that job to be able to care for your loved one like I had to do. To me, in that season, you guys, that was rocking my vision. Like, can we just normalize that life is like, it's multidimensional. It's not this one-dimensional thing of going in one direction. When you begin to understand that, and you begin to understand and look at things, not from a place of fear, but from a place of curiosity. You know, we said this last week. Sometimes we go into crisis and struggle, and we start asking God, we start questioning God, and we say, God, why did you let me go through this? Can I invite you to ask a different question? Maybe the question to be asking is, God, what is it you want me to learn from this? Maybe that's the question. Maybe that's the opportunity. Friend, listen to me. As we get ready to wrap up, it goes really fast, doesn't it? Listen to me carefully. You have more options than you realize, even in the midst of crisis, even in the midst of struggle, even when it feels like you can't catch a breath. Hey, entrepreneurs, come in here and listen to this. When you feel like you are overwhelmed and bombarded, we're going to be doing a session just for entrepreneurs on how to scale your leadership. This is going to be talking about scaling your business, but it's also going to be talking about how to scale your own ability to lead your business. There's some very specific things to do that help get you out of that gerbil wheel, that give you the ability when things happen not to feel like your life is falling apart. You've got options, friend. I've lived it, and the leaders in this community have lived it. Listen, if you are not part of Vision Casters Academy, I want to encourage you to join us in Vision Casters Academy. This is a monthly membership. And for those of you that are already in Vision Casters Academy, make sure to check the Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group. All your lessons are downloaded. Your March workbook is downloaded, and we're getting ready to hit April. I can't wait to get into April with y'all. Make sure to go back and watch the recording of the live workshop, which was last Friday. And also make sure you watch the trainings that go along with that. If you're ready to build a toolkit to rock your vision, regardless of what happens, regardless of if the bottom falls out, this is the place for you, friend. I am so grateful. Thank you, you guys, Amanda, Carolyn. Let's see who's in here. Lelaine Sutton. Hey, girl. Thanks for joining us today. So glad to have you in here. She says, this is about being rooted in an unmovable foundation when being tossed and fro. Be still and know that I am God. Come on, come on, come on. I'm so glad you were in here. Coach Kim Dudash, I love you, girl. We need to connect. We keep missing each other. John Kovaleski, thank you so much for all the goodness. And Timo, you know I love you. I appreciate you. And Shireen, thank you so much, girl. You know, this is our jam. This is our season. 2023 is the year. Remember, friends, you have more options than you realize. And if you stick around long enough, I'm going to prove it to you. I'll see you next week.